Now, do you know, can you use any past all the different?
Oh, yeah. On the New York 3-way anyway.
Okay.
Feeling 100% now, Mr. McMaster?
Yeah.
Yeah, you use it there.
The next day,
Getting things done there.
I wasn't so sure about that one. Hey,
They're good in Pennsylvania.
good. How are you?
No, it's goes to your license plate.
Back to 100%.
Can't roll a car because it's weight.
Make you feel better.
For the time being, good.
Yeah.
But your Thanksgiving went okay?
It's at 5 o'clock. If I would have done it at 5
Read your
o'clock.
plate when you're coming and click.
I'm a Buckeyes fan, so it didn't go as.
How they did that.
You know, you go through it,
Cause I
the
didn't know if
max
there
is
was
like
something on the agenda, but it's just your plate.
30 square.
See, this is where we exercise brotherhood.
Yeah.
The reason it has to
Grace
do
and
with weight
kindness.
and
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gotta take
Well, that makes
advantage of those
sense.
moments,
They're
I
all
guess.
sooner or later.
Number 23.
Good to see it.
If you go too fast,
Kinda grumpy, they say.
warning's in the mail. Second warning, they'll take you out for 30 days. I'm glad you're back.
We're getting underway in about 1 minute.
Year, yeah. Yeah, they're pretty strict on the speech.
Well, that makes sense.
He knows.
He knows.
That's what anything. Yes.
Oh, yeah. You just kept these in the basement?
Big sale.
We have one coming up soon, 10. Here's 120.
Any marbles?
121.
Nope.
You know what to do with this one?
Getting underway in about
No.
5,
I don't know why.
4, 3. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, November 28th, 2023. Before we get underway, our guest pastor this evening is Tyson Knopfsinger from First Church of God. Thanks for being our guest this evening.
Thank you. Hey, just want to say, as we get rolling, my family's only been here a little over a year, and one of our favorite things is the downtown, just how you do it all up so wonderful for Christmas. It just brings an extra measure of peace and joy as we travel through, and so thank you for all you do around the city, just to bring that Christmas cheer. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for these moments. I thank you for these leaders. I thank you for their investment in this city. And I just pray tonight as they gather together that they would find unity, that they would just be able to resolve all of the things on their agenda and be able to move forward. Pray for our city as we head into Christmas, just that Christmas cheer would spread wide. I thank you for all the different initiatives, whether it's Children's Lantern or the different programs that are helping families. And I just pray that each and every family would find the help that they need this Christmas. And we just thank you in advance for a great December. Amen.
Thank you. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all members of council are present for the meeting this evening. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've reviewed the index minutes for the City Council meeting of November 14th, 2023. Does anyone have a motion to correct or amend the index minutes as they are presented? Without any such motion, I'll endorse them. Do we have any liaison meeting reports or requests? Do we have any citizens' concerns before we get underway? Council.
They're citizens.
Comments from council? There we go.
Just trying to help you.
Yes.
Has there been any updates on Northtown Estates that you're aware of?
Let me touch on that. you know, we monitor their UBO account, their currently. I think you've got some,
We held a nuisance abatement board hearing in here a few weeks ago, and the board condemned, I think, about 17 trailers that are not fit for habitation, and agreed with the zoning or the nuisance community improvement officer that they should be condemned
Okay,
and demolished.
thank you.
Do we have any other comments from council? I have, a couple things. First up, the mayor has requested that that our city law director, Sean O'Donnell, be
like to reappoint
reappointed.
Sean O'Donnell as our law director for 2024.
Thank you, yes.
You're welcome, sir.
Unless there's a motion and a second to reverse this determination of the mayor regarding the renewal of the appointment of Sean O'Donnell, then council concurs with the mayor's appointment. Do we have such a motion?
So moved. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Quiet, Sean.
Strike that.
So having no such motion, the reappointment for Sean O'Donnell can move forward. Congratulations.
Almost.
Nice.
Thank you, Sean.
had you worried, didn't he, Sean?
This is one of those misstep evenings.
You did.
Close.
Also, before we move on, many of the citizens of Defiance may have been trying to email us or contact us for questions or comments, anything like this. I just would like to reiterate that council and almost everybody down here's emails have been down for going on 2 weeks now. The issue has been addressed almost to the exhaustion of our IT guys, but they're addressing it and it should be fixed shortly. If there are any citizens that have concerns, please contact either your council person directly or contact Lisa down at the office and she'll be able to direct them to us. This is an issue that is being worked on diligently and we may be having discussions about it forthcoming.
Our emails are working down, right, though?
Yes, I got a whole bunch of emails, started coming in about 6 o'clock, so.
Okay. So it's on the horizon.
Your guys's might not be working right, and we're gonna get that fixed.
There's about 10,000 emails in the queue that are getting put back into the system for all of us, all 180 of us.
And usually I try to keep these things just to myself or to personal conversation, but I've been asked a lot of times in the last couple of weeks how I'm doing after being hit by a car downtown. But since then, I've had no less than 18 people come up and say since then, some similar situations have happened. Just the other day, a young girl walking her bike across Clinton with the light almost hit. I was hit on a Thursday. The following Monday at the same place, I walked to the same corner and said, it would be so funny if I was hit again. Looked around and there was a person on their phone taking the same turn without stopping at the right, looking left but taking a right on the red. If I could just reiterate that council and the rest of people just encourage people to follow the street rules and regulations. It's not just about what you can get away with or shaving 30 seconds or 45 seconds. That really, especially with the young girl or the older lady that I saw almost get hit, for some people they won't bounce back and it will only take one time. So I'd like to encourage just neighborly kindness and looking out for each other, whether or not the signs are posted or not.
You need to make it so cell phones don't work in cars when they're moving. That would eliminate everything.
That would help a lot.
I have a question.
Sure.
On how it works. You have a fine police force here, why don't you arrest a bunch of them and kind of make a point of it? You got hit, other people got hit, I've come from larger cities. I mean, seriously, you don't want somebody getting killed, you already know there's an issue. And I would wait till some of your cops are good people, just station out there, have a, hey, we're gonna arrest you if you're on your cell phone few days, and maybe you make that point. Just saying.
And we do have excellent law enforcement who have reiterated several times they're keeping an eye out for people on their phones. What I'm speaking to most directly is the turning right at Reds in the downtown area. And while the ordinance has been passed that that's going to be no longer a thing here in Defiance, we still haven't posted the signs. We're waiting for them to come in.
Ohio's a phone down state, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Well, I mean, okay, so again, you know, without enforcement, people get away with what they wanna do. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but
Oh, no.
I hand my phone to my wife, she hands this up, you personally got hit. A gal almost got hit, it's a nice city, you don't want somebody killed downtown because someone does something stupid. Throw a few cops out there, be amazed at how much people pay more attention.
And try to just reiterate one last time, this isn't about necessarily phones being up, it's turning right downtown onto Clinton Street, that people will come to the red light, look left, and then turn right when people are crossing, whether or not they're on the phone. The lady who hit me did not have a phone. But my point is, the signs saying no right turn on red have not been posted yet. So in the interim, let's all keep an eye out for each other. Let's not hit each other. So, sorry to go on for so long. But the Board of Control, Mayor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. President. It'll be early summer before those signs are posted. Last we discussed it. Other than that, we've taken care of Mr. O'Donnell and welcome him back. The only other thing I just mentioned today, I was at the courthouse and George Newton came out. George, how you doing? He said, I'm doing good. He said, my birthday today. George is 94, and I just wanted to publicly wish George Newton a happy birthday, and that's all I have, sir.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things I want to make council aware of. The first one, Fire Chief Bill Wilkins, after 16 total years with the city of Defiance and many more serving the fire community in the state of Ohio, informed the mayor and me of his intent to retire in June of next year. Chief Wilkins has served not just the city, but the surrounding area for many years and done more service to the state of Ohio when it comes to life-saving and fire prevention than we could really ever ask of anyone. And we definitely thank him for his service. With this announcement, the HR director and myself will plan to work with civil service in the near future to ensure that the job description and qualifications are up to date and then begin the process of seeking a new fire chief. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Secondly, I wanted to make council and the general public aware that the compost site will be closing on December 9th. I know those are two completely different things, but the compost site will be closing on December 9th. And then lastly, I would request an executive session for under 121.22 G4 collective bargaining matters.
So we have a request for an executive session this evening. We have a motion. Second, Mr. Engel. Those in favor of it?
No, you're not gonna do that.
Who said the motion? I didn't hear.
Mr. Mack.
Mr. Mast, second. Mr. Engel.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
All right, so before we adjourn this evening, we will have an executive session. That's all.
Quick question, with the compost being closed, are you going to have any more leaf drive-bys or would be able to call?
Leaf pickup will
Yeah.
continue for, I believe, I think it's 2 more weeks.
2 more
I
weeks?
think we've got 2 weeks left of it
My
roughly.
tree
I
won't
don't
drop
have the
until
exact
the
date.
3rd week. Just telling you.
Go out there and shake it.
Yeah, come over and shake
Send
it.
Rick up there. It's gonna be 4 weeks.
Just wondered. Okay, thank you.
It certainly wouldn't hurt Mrs. Crutch at this point for folks to call out to the street department if they think they have leaves. The schedules have been regularly published in the newspaper. I'm sure they're on our website. They can check that schedule and we keep our schedule. Weather could impact the next couple of weeks. If we get a wet snow and lose them all together, that makes it difficult.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That's all, Mr. President.
Mr. O'Donnell.
I too would request an executive session, this one for details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or a public office pursuant to 121.22 G6 Ohio Revised Code.
We have a request for an executive session. Motion, Mr. Engel.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
Mr. Mass.
Yes.
And Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
You'll have a second executive session before we adjourn for this evening. Is there anything else? Mr. O'Donnell?
No.
And Ms. Sprague?
Yes, I have a couple of items. Next week, I'm gonna bring you the budget book for 2024. Please let me know if you've got any questions in the meantime. I know John had a few, so don't be afraid to reach out to me in the meantime. I have a couple of purchase orders. Purchase order 2023-01673 to Brightly Software. That's just a routine software program. I think we've got 3 divisions that gets spread out to. $20,462.67. Purchase order 2023-01663, U.S. utility contractor for the Holy Cross school zone flasher replacement, $27,549. And then finally, we were contacted by NOCAC last week about a water assistance program available through them. If people want to participate, they have to contact NOCAC, but it's good. The program's running until March 31st of 2024. Qualifying households can receive $1,500 paid directly to the city for their water and sewer bills. There's qualifying rules that they have to meet, but what this amount won't cover is their trash. So they're still responsible for the trash portion of their bill, and the utility office will monitor that. So if they get the $1,500, they'll apply that monthly and then bill back for the trash portion of what they owe. So good program, but contact NOCAC if you're interested. And that's all I have.
Thank you. We do have 2 items of legislation for consideration this evening.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance awarding a contract for the widening and paving of Ginner Road and declare an emergency.
Mr. Mack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance before you will allow us to sign the contract with Ward Construction for the widening and resurfacing of Ginter Road. The project received 2 bids. Ward was the lowest and best. Estimated project completion would be July 31st of 2024.
Mr. Corbett?
There's no further questions. Motion to suspend and call.
No further questions. We have a motion to suspend and call.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast?
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
and Mr. Engel.
Yes. Motion passed.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Engel.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Crutch.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
and Mr. Corbett.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to select an electricity provider for the electric aggregation program and enter into a 20-month third-party electricity supply contract and declare an emergency.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is, if you will, a redo of the ordinance that you passed on November 14th. And since that date, the energy markets have become much more favorable to the consumer. And this is due in part to the expected warming weather patterns in the month of December. You would know it from the last few days, but they're calling for it. This ordinance authorizes a 20-month agreement, as the clerk stated, and it goes from the May 2024 billing date through the December 2025 billing date. Authorizes the city administrator to select the lowest and best rate among the 2 most competitive suppliers. And the reason we did it that way is because the prices and the rates are all constantly changing and constantly in flux. We didn't list the rate in this ordinance. Rather, it gives him the authority to select the lowest and best rate. And one minor change from the ordinance that was on your agenda was that we changed the contract execution date from this Friday, December 1st, to Wednesday, December 6th, 2023. That was at the recommendation of our Palmer Energy consultant, Mr. Felix, who spoke to you about a month ago. He was concerned that we wouldn't have all the bidders present so close to the Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell?
We're not sure how much lower it will be till you actually pull the.
Correct. I believe the problem was last time, and you can correct me if council passed the ordinance setting a company and a price, and by the time we got to work the next morning to sign it, the prices had changed and there was a lower price on the table. And we didn't want to move forward and sign something if it wasn't the best deal for the citizens of Defiance. So.
It doesn't lend itself well to the typical public contract scenario or procurement scenario where you get a bid and a price, and then you take it to council 2 weeks later.
So
Once it is
sooner or
agreed-
later, you have to choose. You can't wait forever.
Correct.
December 6th.
And once it is signed, we will obviously bring the information back to council and make you aware of the company and the price that we ended up going with.
So I would think when this expires in a couple years, you'll see something similar to this, because I don't foresee the process changing. So this is the best way to do it.
It's a similar dilemma to what we face with the water treatment chemicals, where they're just in such flux, you just can't say this is going to be the price, and by the time you get to sign the contract. So the way council handled that one is in the code itself. They said the city administrator purchases the chemicals in such quantities and such prices as he deems fit.
Mr. Mast?
No further questions. Motion to suspend and call.
We have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
and Mr. Hancock.
Yes. Motion done.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Hancock.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Crutch.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch.
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Mr. Hancock
Yes.
and Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is also adopted. Before we adjourn for the evening, we do have 2 executive sessions, but before we get to those, we do have a time for citizens' concerns.
I'd like to say something real quick.
Please do.
Joe and I got to go to Coffee with the Cop, and Ralph Hahn was there, and his citizen concern that he brought up was the large amount of deer inside our city limits. And I know he brought it up to Chief Schaefer and to Doug Engel, and they also brought up the possibility of checking with ODNR to see if there was any way we could do a 1-day inside the city limits where there would be like on Riverside, park area, something away from a lot of people living, of bow hunting. And I know that Ralph said that there were, I think, 2 or 3 deer that were in Laddie's Grove area, so they're coming more downtown areas. So that was just Ralph Vaughn's concern, and I wanted to bring that up, that maybe we could check with ODNR. And I know that's not an easy thing, because I've called them before, but I thought maybe you guys had more clout.
My understanding the last time we talked to ODNR was reached out to, they were in favor of us doing because of the number of hits that we have had inside the city of Defiance. So I know it's something several employees have been pushing for as well, and law enforcement officers, because they have seen it. So I think ODNR is favorable to
I think our
allow
county is like, what, number 4 in the state of Ohio, or 3 or something like that.
So we'll have deer stands in Laddie's Grove, right? Deer stands and
Yes.
lines.
Can be in residential.
Could we have a spay and neuter program?
Well, no, I just thinking of some wooded areas that, like the college has a wooded area, or Kettering. I know you can't be around, housing and people, but with a bow, maybe.
I think we would probably leave it up to ODNR to give us their best practices on how to conduct something like that.
So we will reach out to
Yep.
them. But I will tell you, Mrs. Crutch, as you well know, we've had this conversation
I
on
know.
many occasions, and there will be someone stop me in the grocery store here soon and say, if you shoot my deer, Mayor McCann, I'm gonna shoot you. Now, I think
We're gonna get believed on you too.
but
I know.
those are the kinds of things that get said, and they, there's the other side of that as well. But
Gotcha.
it is getting to be a real concern, so thank you for bringing it up.
That's fine.
Are there any other citizens' concerns before we?
Hello, Trish Spicer, 29231 County Road 424, Defiance. So I had requested last Tuesday to get on the agenda, but you guys didn't get the request because of your email. Mark is passing out a petition that we had circulated over the internet, and I spent 2 hours walking the downtown getting some merchant signatures, which was overwhelmingly signed by the merchants that I was able to get in front of. This is petition for getting the downtown sign code changed so that we can better compete with the businesses that are on the north side. I'm just gonna fly through these, trying to be mindful of the 5 minutes. I've done 2 public records requests for asking for the permit issued for the sign at 300 Clinton Street and have not received one. I did get a building permit, but not a sign permit. So I'm asking for that again. I don't really like reading all this legal stuff, but I have read the code a lot since this all came up with my sign last January at the Dark Horse Social Club, 651 Clinton Street. There are about a dozen ordinance numbers that have violations in them that are recent violations. I know that code was passed in 2014, and most of these have happened in the last 2 years. There's 15 pages of sign code, a dozen ordinance numbers that I've highlighted, and encompasses more than a dozen businesses, probably closer to 18 businesses that are putting up signs. I've done 3 public records requests on 3 of the businesses and got information back that there was no record of a variance request for their signage. And I have suggested that the sign code is ambiguous to my sign, which was hung on the side of the building instead of the front, and all the calculations are for front of the building calculations, assuming a front of the building sign, and I feel that the code is unclear as to build signs that are hanging on the side. I know they still need one, but I don't think it's clear, and I think that I could have easily been handled the same way these other businesses seem to be, that someone's looking the other way or they're not getting called in. I don't know how else to explain this. I went to zoning committee last week and brought up these issues with them and asked about it, and I was referred to city council. So I'm here to say, what the heck's going on?
Mr. Engel?
Yeah, Mr. Mack, aren't we doing a sign code now?
Yes.
Do you know when that possibly would be
I
done?
spoke to Glenn Griswold, who's the consultant working on that. He worked on our comprehensive plan. He was in here, gave the great presentation for our comprehensive plan. I spoke to him, I wanna say maybe a week ago. It still is in process. I told him we would like, most likely for him to come into council to talk to you about it, to talk to the public about it, explain the process and where he's at in the process, and kind of take any input from anybody as far as if you have any examples, say from other cities around the area that you like the signs and you want to see that incorporated into our sign code, things like that. He's willing to come, set up a time to come up to council and talk to you all and talk to all of us about that. So he is in the process.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
go ahead, Mrs. Crutch.
Didn't you say that you have sent the sign to a consultant? Is that the consultant?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, so that's the consultant. I know for a fact that, Tricia's been here a couple times and, I was real concerned with the whole zoning board for her on her behalf. And I understand that she put the sign up beforehand. She didn't go through the proper procedures, but then when she came to a variance, and paid for everything that she was supposed to do, and then the zoning board again just, slapped it down. And to me, it's like when we're thinking about our downtown businesses, we want people to come downtown. We want to support our small businesses, and to me, I felt like it was kind of a slap in the face on her part. And I didn't understand that because everyone has said what a beautiful sign it was and how pleasing it was for her business. And yet, when the mayor made a motion to accept that sign, there was no second. And I was just appalled by that. And I'm sorry that I have to say that, but it's just like, I drive downtown Defiance and I want to see our city vibrant and exciting. And we don't have that. But you can drive around the beautiful town of Bryan and see people and their signs are beautiful and things are growing in the city of Troy or Sydney or Tip City. And, I can go on and on about the beautiful signs that I have seen, and we're not helping our downtown small businesses at all. I don't feel. So I apologize for that, Trish.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Rusty?
When you guys do your presentation to city council, you're probably gonna do two things. One, you're gonna explain the process of what you guys, and also the inclusion of all the people that are involved in making the decision. That way we can understand it.
I think the point of what he wanted to come to do was to hear everybody out and to take in whatever opinions, but we can certainly put that on his agenda of explaining the process that he's going to be doing for the change in the zoning code.
And who are the spokespersons for downtown businesses? When there are concerns down there collectively, isn't there some process that they have downtown where they go to each business or they have business meetings to voice concerns? One spot, is it like the Defiance Visitors Bureau personnel?
The Visitors Bureau does host a downtown business, does anybody remember the name of it? It's Downtown Business Owners
Merchants meeting.
Merchants meeting, thank you, Mrs. Spicer.
Because there's also chamber, and there's others that basically have all collective businesses trying to be the voice for them. Is there concerns with them, about this issue?
Yeah.
But that would be like what I would like to know is like, number one is the process, the inclusion of those, and also who are the people that would be the contributors to helping to make that decision. I've talked to the mayor on this issue, and he's basically reflected back that you guys have been working on this since August, and it's basically progressing forward. I know for a long time it's kind of like a dead spot for us, but it's basically kicking up with some of the other things that we're doing, like the comprehensive plan and so on and so forth. So I think what's good is that we haven't dropped it completely. It's just basically being picked up and then, going forward at this point.
And it's not gonna just be specifically a sign code rewrite. There's several things in the zoning code that's going to be looked at. There are things that come before a planning commissioner, have come multiple times. All of those types of things are gonna be looked at within the zoning code, so.
Mrs. Kutch?
On the sign code that we have now, I thought there was somewhere that said that there was going to be a committee usually it's like I was trying to think of the three people that are supposed to be on a board, that they bring their sign to, like an architect and the engineer and the
Design review board.
Yes, but there's just like 3 or 4 people. Have we had those people for the signs that have been up in the last 2-3 years? Have those people been contacted to look at Blue Jay Financial or Sam's Restaurant Day or any of those? I mean, I don't know. I've looked at notes and I haven't seen anything, but I just was wondering.
Not that I know of.
So basically, those people are obsolete. We don't have those
Planning Commission has,
as a whole.
correct.
Gotcha. You know, to me, I feel like you might
Also
wanna
got the
think about.
zoning commissioner.
Right, but when you think of signs, you know, you need to look at the artistic part and, you know, the freedom that the people of the small businesses would have to be able to make their signs pleasing so people will come in and buy. It's like a business day Saturday, you know, I was down there and it's like there's nobody there, you know, and it's just sad for our town.
Part of the reason we've kind of veered away from some of those committees is you inject the arbitrariness that you were just decrying about the planning commission. Whereas if the new code were to have set standards, it's more predictable, it's easier for the business owners to bring their signs into compliance, and it's not about what the architect on the, you know, the design review board is thinking that day.
But even so, they're gonna have a format to follow, but then they could still provide a variance to change it to make it more pleasing for themselves also. So the signs will still be kind of.
And part of the other reason we moved away from that is the voters in 2019 assigned the variance responsibilities to the planning commission. They kind of consolidated that role into the planning commission. That was part of the 2019 charter change.
Gotcha.
I neglected to point out that in that handout, there was another page of it that I tried in a very amateur, quickly way, because I'm not getting paid to do that, to analyze the sign code. And when I walked around talking to the business owners in the downtown, they overwhelmingly felt that we should not have that significantly different size rules as the businesses that are on the north side. We're already restricted because of the fire code, traffic codes, and anything that our insurance underwriters would apply to our buildings. So that takes care of a lot of the issues and concerns of size and how they're hung. But overwhelmingly, they felt that their solid walls should be their solid walls. They own them, they pay for them, they maintain them, and they shouldn't be prohibited from posting a sign such as mine. They understand lights, they understand blocking things, but the overall city sign code takes care of most of that. And if they have the solid wall surfacing to support a sign, because remember, no committee, not even a committee of artist types, can dictate what's on these signs. Because it's the United States of America. Their current code says you can't dictate content. It's only the size and how they're hung. So, like I said, the downtown merchants very overwhelmingly agreed with those main points, that the overall city code has plenty of restrictions on size and things, and that the downtown shouldn't be forced to have such significantly smaller signs. 2.5 feet is the maximum height in the downtown. Even if you've got the solid wall space, what's the point of paying more for a corner lot? You can't make use of that corner lot. So those were the kinds of issues, and I just don't see, I've been waiting for 3 years for the sign code to change. I mean, since I first started on my building, on looking at the purchase of it. And I was told well before I even found the Rod Brown building that the sign code was going to be changed. So I just don't understand why I'm the one that had to take a sign down when it's not me going around doing this. I am getting sent pictures constantly from people now throughout the community that are seeing all these signs. Not allowed to have lit signs in the downtown.
Right.
Well,
And
Sam's and Blue Jays has that. You know,
and I was only
Yeah.
timing when you
I
were
know.
presenting. But do we have any final questions before we wrap up?
I plan to come back next week and be on the agenda. So I think I've already made that request, right, Lisa?
I said that you could, but you didn't make the request.
Well, that's why I'm clarifying that.
Yes.
So,
You wanna be on the next week as
Yes.
special guest,
yes,
and you're gonna be talking about signage.
yes.
Okay.
Before we wrap, Mr. Waxler?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, I have had several people, even from out of town, that noticed that sign gone and say how nice that looked on that building. Now, I don't know about the whole code thing or this or that, but me personally, I thought it looked really nice on there too. But the other thing is, and Jill brought it up, they had small town shopping Saturday. My wife and my daughter-in-laws and stuff went around, and they said how sad it was that Defiance had nothing. They said they went to Hicksville, they went to Bryan, they went all over. and this towns were packed, people all over the sidewalks. And they come to Defiance and there's nothing going on. I don't know what we gotta do, and I keep saying that over and over and over. I don't know what it is we gotta do. But we can talk signs, we can talk no turns on reds, we can put all this money in facades. But if our merchants aren't open and doing business, we're wasting our time and money. And I, for one, am not gonna agree to put any more money in downtown until we start seeing something happen. It's getting, we just keep throwing money down there and nothing's happening. I don't know who it is that goes around and I know people come to your towns and go into your storefronts and this and that because they find a spot, whatever. But my wife said these little towns around us have stores that are like in New York and for all these great stores. You know,
They don't have the big franchises on the north side competing with them like we do.
well, I get that too, but the north side's not much. Our mall's dying off. Come on, we all know
The mall was
that.
packed this weekend. It was
What?
packed. The mall was packed this
Okay,
weekend.
so that's the once. I mean, in general, the mall is not packed. I mean, stores come and go out there too, like water. I mean, they're in and out and in and out. I don't know what it is we gotta do, but we really need to start looking at doing something. I don't know how we do it, who we do it with, if it's the downtown, the DDBB, whoever it is. I think we're spinning our wheels there. We all talk about how great we wanna get downtown, but nothing's happening. We've been talking about it for years, and we're not getting anywhere. I don't know what's gonna take. So that's just my take on it.
Well said. Mr. Engel.
Yeah, a couple things. As far as downtown, I agree with what you're saying. But you go to these other places, they don't have a mall. Of course, our mall is not that busy, okay? But they got someplace else to go versus downtown. It's been like this for years. And you go back to the sign code, talk about variances. If you're gonna have a sign code, I think it ought to be strict sign code. If you got a variance, why have it? Because you're gonna have a variance here, somebody else is gonna come up, you're gonna have a variance here, you're gonna have one here. Like over to Circle K, there's about 14 variances that they got. You know, and that's a cluster there. So, I mean, I just think we need to take our time on this to make sure things are right.
We also gotta deal with trees downtown when
know.
it comes to the signs. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know we're Tree City, but we're hiding a lot of stuff with trees that people can't see going by, you know? And we don't have the hanging out signs, so they're really kinda, we want them to look around, now they're gonna run over somebody, you know, cause we're trying to see what that store is, you know? I mean, I'm just saying, we need to look at everything.
I agree. Mr. Engel?
Okay, one last thing. Actually, the signs, I would like to see like what we had 50 years ago, where you had the signs out to the building and it would point out. People could see what it is, where it's at, and the whole thing, and some of them had lights on. Now, the code was probably different back then versus now, but maybe, I don't know if they're gonna look into that or not, but people would be able to see that, but now are they gonna pay, the merchant's gonna pay for a new sign? Cause I don't think the city should pay for that. Like she says, they take care of it, they do this, they do that, that's a responsibility to do their own thing. I'm done.
Mrs. Crutch?
I would like to see two large signs on 24. One coming from Toledo saying, visit downtown historic Defiance shopping, and one coming the other way. You know, you drive down I-75 and that's what you see, historic Sydney, historic Pickwick, come to our downtown. You know, people are driving on 24 and of course they get off, what do they see? The big box stores, and that's all they go to. They don't think about coming downtown, but maybe if they saw the sign, visit downtown historic Defiance. And I know that's probably through the state and it's probably expensive, but to me, I think that would be something to bring our people to the downtown businesses.
Mr. Corbett?
Actually, I'll switch gears here a little bit because I know we need to do something downtown, but I'm just gonna try to clarify something here because Mrs. Spicer's here. She got sent here by the zoning board because they didn't have an answer for her. We don't have an answer for her. It's unfortunate that it's been chased for 3 years. How do we move this process forward? And what can we do as a council until we actually have an ordinance in front of it? Just technical questions.
I believe we said, we're working with Glenn Grisdale.
Okay.
We have asked him to come here and meet with you directly, and we're having a conversation right now that frankly should be had when Glenn's in the room. The perpendicular signs are something we too have a keen interest in seeing develop, exactly what their size should be. Mounted that way, there is some concern about their long-term stability. So we feel there should be an inspection process, not necessarily by us, but by a license or a sign installer that says, yes, those fasteners are still strong and holding that sign in place. There should probably be a safety chain that supports those as well. These lights are held up with safety chains, so they don't come crashing down on our firefighters. And, you know, that sort of thing. So there's a lot to consider, a lot to talk about.
Good.
Guess it's a yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yeah, just follow up on Ms. Crutch's concern about billboards or signage. That basically would be a budget issue to basically put a line item dealing with something like that. As to whether we want to spend the money to basically advertise our community for passerbys. So,
We do that now. I mean, we use hotel motel money to support the DDVB. We're members of the Chamber of Commerce. I think if at some point you want to have a conversation with Kirsty Mack at the DDVB about what she's doing, feel free to do that. But we are spending that money, not directly, but indirectly.
no, I'm just talking about the billboards. That's all I was talking about. A billboard item.
Is that something we can
advertisement.
just
I
do?
wasn't thinking billboard, I was thinking more of the historical brown signs.
I know what
where
you're
you
talking
see-
about.
You know, you see the green signs where it says, you know, Pickwa, but the green signs, or brown ones, are usually from the state of Ohio that'll say, you know, visit historic downtown Defiance.
Advertisement.
Yeah,
All right.
it is
I'm
an
done.
advertisement, but I think it's through the state, right? That we would have to check on.
I would think through ODOT, yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Was Mr. Grisdale able to give us a timeline?
He didn't have a timeline for completion, but he said if we work out our schedules, he's willing to come in and kind of explain this process to you and then talk through all that stuff with you. So I don't have a timeline at this exact
And along with the sign codes, we also consider banners as well. You know, we have temporary banners and permanent banners, that should be considered, especially for local events. They should be considered as well, so.
Would it be wise now, Trish, to kind of try to coordinate your wanting to be on the agenda and when Mr. Grisdale can come in here? Because I think if not, we're just gonna keep spinning wheels and we can talk all we want about it, but if there's not somebody here that can tell us where we're at in the process and how it's going and what we need to do, then we're just gonna have to repeat it all again when he shows up.
Yeah, I actually, when I reached out to him, I brought up the 12th. He said he wasn't going to be able to make something like that. I think his schedule is pretty busy the next couple of weeks, and then we get into Christmas. If we could look at January, early January, we could probably make that work for him. But again, I don't know his schedule off the top of my head. But I'm sure we can coordinate that stuff.
I could just put the sign back up. I mean, since it's ambiguous and we've got so many other businesses that have signs up that they didn't get variances for or permits for or whatever. I mean, I can bring you that whole list next Tuesday and like I said, I've got the sign. I can just put it back up and wait to hear. That's what zoning committee told me I should come ask you.
Or we can do the right thing in the right steps.
But I'm spending a lot of money a month downtown trying to bring that vibrancy. Without restaurants that make it, you're not gonna get the brick and mortar to follow. And I just don't feel like I've gotten the same consideration of any of them. I've gotten scrutiny. I mean, I'm gonna do more public records requests this week. I can't find anything in the code that says anything about the print signs like the Strady put up or St. Paul's Methodist. It says that those are only allowed in B3 and B4. That's not downtown. Did they get a variance for it? I mean, I can just keep digging as we, I'm just saying.
Go through the process.
Yeah, I always encourage people, that's
But I don't know what the process is, that's what I'm asking.
That's what we're trying to figure out here. We'll do it in January.
So when you do hear back, you will let us know, I'm sure.
Will.
Well,
Are
am I
there-
gonna come next Tuesday then?
That would be up to you.
I'm on the agenda, right?
I can put you on the agenda, or I can take you off, it's up to you.
I would like to be on, thank you.
Okay, I'll be on the agenda,
Appreciate it.
no problem.
Thank you.
With that address, are there any other citizens' concerns before we?
What would be the topic for the discussion?
Signage,
Sign code recommendations.
What?
Sign code recommendations.
Sign code recommendations.
Yeah, but I think you're talking about next week if she comes.
Yeah.
What's gonna be the topic
What's
of the
the topic of-
conversation?
yeah.
Something we didn't already cover tonight?
But it's
Well,
being
that's my
it's
point.
being
Something we'll
worked
have to
on, so
cover
there's nothing we
again
can do on that.
if Grisdale shows up.
Yeah, which is the
So,
point you just made.
You guys were pointed out as the enforcement arm.
No, what we're saying is we don't understand what next week's gonna do. We wanna wait until we get the meeting set up and then come with that gentleman here and then we can actually get something accomplished.
In the meantime, Sam's Restaurante can open with a lit sign and have multiple signs out, and they can have a banner out more than 30 days, and they can do all that. But I have a restaurant downtown that opens at the same time, and I have to take my signage down.
But that's nothing that council does.
We didn't do that to you.
We're
But
not
I was
There is
referred
a
to that.
process
I
for
get
that,
what
but it's
you're
not
saying.
here.
Move on.
That's
Yeah,
what-
too,
No.
but we need to go through the process.
We are reaching out to these businesses as you speak and told them there's been a complaint about their signage. And we're having conversations with them. We may well be removing one tomorrow.
But in the meantime, if you guys just go ahead and waive the downtown, the little bit on that chart that I brought you, that is the downtown, I think you need to have discussion on that next Tuesday, because I am not the only business owner that is upset about this. If you just waive the part, strike it out with a pencil, the
See,
part
and
that
that's-
only applies to the downtown.
I've had this conversation previously with other people. We don't wanna just sit and start striking out sentences in the code. We want to do this in a proper fashion and establish a new code. We
I
don't want to just go
understand.
in with a pen and start marking it up.
I
And I
understand.
understand where you're
But
coming from.
These
I
are all
understand your
nice signs that these
frustration.
people have put up.
And excuse me, Trish, please. I understand your frustration. I've been at the meetings that you've been at. I know you were offered a peace offering of some semblance of your sign at some point, I believe.
No, that's not true.
You've been given options.
And I did that option.
And you've been
And it
told
was-
that it's in the works. We're working on it. We just sat and had a nice conversation about
Okay.
working on it and had some great ideas.
But
I think we just need to do this properly and not just strike letters out of the code.
Right, but we're discussing next Tuesday and whether or not I can come back and discuss this further. Because next Tuesday, it's what we're going to talk about more, is the little bit that's in the code about the downtown. And you can strike that and you can still spend your money and take another year or two with your consultant to get a code.
Mr. Esty?
We're not gonna be doing that as far as something that's not an ordinance that comes before us.
Correct.
Discussion, the person can come before us and convey a concern, and we listen to the concerns. There is a process, there's an administration, there's codes in place, if they need to be adjusted, they make the recommendations based on our voice to them if there is something that needs to be voiced. But we're not gonna be doing here on a citizen's concern to come in and say, I want this changed
Right.
today, and it's not gonna happen.
I was just gonna summarize. You can come and get on the agenda and be the special guest and speak. What Mr. Mack was saying is that we have the consultant, that it will be coming in, and unfortunately, it's in January.
I don't have a date that I can give you right
Sometime.
now, but I will work to get you one for the next council.
And while you can come and be on the agenda for next week, Mr. Uresti said it a lot more plainly than I was going to. The council isn't going to entertain let's waive and start striking lines out of the.
Then you've got a lot of signs that the people are gonna be in trouble in. I'm trying to make it so that there's not upset downtown merchants, that you're gonna saying that all these merchants now are gonna get letters or notices that their signs are out of compliance? Why do that when you could just do this and make peace?
Well, because I'm not convinced that would bring peace or long-term stability. It's not doing things in an orderly fashion that will endure the test of time. Like in 5 years, that will cause more problems than waiting the few months until we can actually have the consultant come in and do it in a orderly fashion. Now,
I
we've addressed it.
tried.
You're encouraged to get on the agenda and speak next week. I think Mr. Mast had some wisdom in what he was saying is how about we compound it, that you come in and speak when the consultant's coming in and we can actually synergize some of this energy, but you're free to come in and be on the agenda next week.
Okay,
But as far as this evening,
Move on.
I will see you next week then. Thank you.
Okay, what is the discussion?
oh, and what the question was, what would the topic? Signage. Well, signage is
She's
kind
the
of
one
right.
who's coming in, so signage?
Yes, downtown signage.
People go 8-9 minutes, trust me.
That's good.
When the man was after me, it was 9 minutes. That was Mr. That's his face.
I'm gonna make this very brief. Annette Miller, 309 Clinton Street, right downtown. I have been a merchant in the downtown for over 18 years. And during that 18 years, I was never once told that I could get a variance on a sign. I knew what I was allowed and what I wasn't allowed because I used a graphic designer that was here in town that said, you can only have it be this high and this wide. I opened up in my business or whatever, and it was prior to 2014. So I was allowed to have a phone number on it. After 2014, other places were not allowed to have their phone number on it. I, once again, know several businesses who have placed their phone number within the last 6 months underneath their signage. It's really frustrating for me to have been in business this long, whether people think the downtown is vibrant or not. I know that I have done my share to make downtown as vibrant as I possibly can. I've had art shows, I've had art galleries, I've had 17 different artists that I've had in my store. Unfortunately, it was a little bit before its time for Defiance, as far as foot traffic. Now we have people that want to come into play and that want to do these things. So we're back at a situation where we need to be able to be creative. We need to be able to draw those outside people to come into town, or from people in town to say, oh wow, that's really a neat place. I'd like to go in there. If we're not given that opportunity, we stay the same. When you drive through town, you see all the same signs with almost all the same block letters. It's not interesting. I don't want to go to a place where I have to see the same thing either, and I know you guys don't. That's why we go other places when we're on vacation or we're traveling, or go to Hicksville, go to Ryan, go those places. I know that since I've been in business, I was also told what I could or could not paint the color of my building, because we were going to be a Main Street community, so you have to stick with this color palette. Well, if I would have painted my building during that period of time, I would be really disappointed right now, because now we're not a Main Street community, so now people can paint their building whatever color they want to. It's very difficult to try to navigate this system. And I just would like for people who are merchants or building owners to be on some of these boards, to be included, to be involved. We get to have the reaction of what someone tells us. We never know what's going on until it's already finished. A decision has been made, and we're to jump and follow suit. It's really, really difficult. And I want you to understand what our point of view is. We're investing in town. We've bought buildings. We're doing all these things. We jump through all these hoops. We clear our sidewalks. We clean our windows. We do all those things. We'd like some support. And by supporting us, that means you include us. And that's what's not happening. I have other people telling me what I can and can't do, along with, it's my livelihood. If I came and impacted your livelihood, I think it'd be a different story. So when people say what we can and can't do and don't include us, at least in the process of being able to say, hey, yeah, this makes sense for us. This is what works. This is how we conduct business. That's all I have to say. I don't want to fight with anybody. I just want people to understand that it's 20 years. So yeah, let's make this happen.
Thank you. Before we head to executive session, is there anyone else that has a citizen's concern? All right,